You had a strong comparison on who Velasquez reminds you of. Can you give it to the people?
Yeah, look, I thought he was kind of like a Nelson Cruz type of guy. I mean, he's got a lot of power and a great arm and very consistent. I could see him being in the game for a long time too. He's going to be one of those players to me. You turn around and you're like, where did this guy come from? He's like, oh, he was a Cub when he started out. But I think Kansas City got a really, really good deal from the Cubs in this one.
All right, happy Tuesday, everyone, and unhappy Monday for the Chicago Cubs as they fall in the series opener against the Cincinnati Reds. 6-5 the final score. Fortunately, there's 3 more to play at Wrigley Field. Unfortunately, Cincinnati has won every single game inside the confines of the Ivy this season. Mick Gillespie, Chuck Walter with you for the next half hour or so as we give you some trade breakdowns. Mick Gillespie has seen these prospects that have been shipped off to the Royals and to the Washington Nationals. He knows them more than anyone, so he's going to give his take on whether the Cubs won or lost these trades. Now's a good time to tell you to like, subscribe. This is the Cubs baseball channel. We have a lot of negatives to get into from the game, but Mick, it's a Tuesday. It's sunny where I am, so let's start us off in the right note, and that is being positive. What did you like about yesterday's game?
I like the fact that the Cubs fight. They're a fighting team. Dansby Swanson is a guy I'm really falling in love with. I mean, he's just so reliable at the shortstop spot. He just has that look, that star look. And then Cody Bellinger, it is, I mean, look, just as the Cub fandom part of my life, I'm so glad he's still there. I mean, he's a difference maker. And I remember at the beginning of the season saying, hey, of all the moves that they made in the offseason, some I liked and some I didn't like. I really liked that one because I thought this guy might come in and refine his career, reestablish himself as one of baseball's stars, and he's done that. And I thought that he played that way last night.
How about Javier Assad coming in after Marcus Stroman really struggled and being the stop plug there, really keeping the Reds in check? He looked fantastic. Is there any chance to you that maybe if you teamed him up with Wesneski and had a 3 innings apiece type outing that he could be a bullpen starter? Do you like his role right now?
No, I think he could be a starter. I mean, I really do. And he just gets better and better. You saw him in the World Baseball Classic pitching for Mexico and doing well there. And he's establishing himself as maybe the 6th or the 7th guy, and I remember Theo Epstein talking about the fact that you want to have not 5 starters, but 7 or 8 starters, right? Because to get through the season with injuries or when guys are struggling, it's nice to have that next option. And I got to give I'm critical of the Cubs sometimes with the way that they develop starting pitching, but they did a fantastic job with him.
How about Marcus Stroman? Was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball entering the month of July. Had, I think, the second best ERA. He was off by like a half a point from being the top ERA leader in all of baseball. And Marcus Stroman absolutely just hates July right now. An ERA that was already above 8 had been ballooned. So Marcus Stroman's awful month is finally over. He gets into August with hopefully a little bit of a cleanse. What have you seen with Marcus Stroman at this point? Is it all mental? Is it still something from that blister? What is the issue?
He's just not as sharp right now, and things are leaking out over the plate, and he's paying for it, and when he's at his best, he just has a little bit more bite on his pitches. So I think that eventually he'll regain that form, and it very well could be blisters. I mean, there's something that's not quite clicking for him right now, but I don't know that it's something that you need to be super concerned over. But, kind of going back to Javier Assad, if Stroman continues to struggle, maybe just kind of skip him in the rotation and let a guy like Assad start just to give him a break and work through fatigue if it's fatigue, or, let his fingers heal if it's a blister. And a lot of times you'll see teams do that and it pays off.
All right, Mick, you ready for some trade talks? I think we talked about yesterday's game enough. There's not much more to talk about. We'll get into Seiya Suzuki and some of the issues you've had with him right now, and just talk some more negatives, unfortunately, from that game as the show winds down. But good times ahead, and hopefully good times ahead tonight as Justin Steele takes the mound against Ben Lively for the Cincinnati Reds. But we're talking trades. Jeimer Candelario, welcome back to the Chicago Cubs. The third baseman is now manning up the hot corner for Chicago. Started off his career in the Windy City, came up through the Double-A ranks when you were calling him with the Tennessee Smokies, and now he's back. That trade, giving away middle-of-the-pack prospects, a pitcher and a shortstop. What were your overall thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen the shortstop, but I have seen DJ Hurst, the pitcher, a lot, and he kind of looks like a lot of the Cubs prospect pitchers, and that's a guy who has some really good ability, but is unable to command the strike zone on a consistent basis. He's got a great changeup. I think deception is a weapon for him, the way that he hides the ball. He's left-handed. He's one of the Cubs' top picks the year that he was drafted, and he has a ton of potential, but they just weren't able to develop that here. So there's a chance that this guy could end up in the big leagues and be a really good starter. I mean, he's got that kind of pedigree. He's only 22 years old. But at the same time, I mean, if you're trying to win, he's the type of prospect that you feel like is, they don't have, it's not like they have a ton of pitching prospects in the Cubs system, but if you're winning now and you want to go out and get Jeimer Candelario, who's having a great year, he's probably his best year ever as a pro. And, maybe he's right at the point where he's about to blossom into a star. He's good defensively. He can hit with power. He's clutch. He spent that time with the Tigers in Detroit, and now with the Nationals, coming back to the Cubs. I think he's going to be really motivated to prove himself after being traded by the Cubs in the past. And, I like this trade. I mean, there is some risk here because you're giving up, a young shortstop and a starting pitcher. But the thing about the shortstop is that the Cubs just drafted 2 shortstops out of college in this last draft, including Matt Shaw, their first round pick, right? So maybe they feel comfortable with that spot, particularly with these guys that are coming in and they're going to be, on the same team as, the guy that they traded.
I'm looking at Jeimer's OPS. It's above 800 right now. And for those of you that don't follow the advanced analytics or follow what the on-base plus slugging means, essentially, I look at it like a skewed version of a tax score. Like above 750 is all right. Above 800 is really solid. Above 900 is incredible. And he's hitting it about 815, something like that in the OPS ranks. 16 home runs, meaning that he's on pace to hitting about 25 home runs. 75, 80 RBI range. Like, he's got some pop in his bat. He's having a really good season, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what they need. You've been mentioning Jeimer's name a lot, and then you got what you wished for. I mean, you talked about it, and they delivered, right? It's exciting for Cubs fans because, a team that a week ago today had like a 13.6% chance of making the playoffs, according to Fangraphs, bought instead of sold, right? So you got to go and get it done now, and it's up to the players, right? Management, they bought into Dansby and the guys, and now the guys need to deliver.
Trade deadline ends at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. I wasn't even aware of that. I just thought, when the clock hit midnight Pacific time, deadline was over, whatever. No, it's 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, the 1st of August. With that being said, any chance the Cubs have any more moves in them?
This is what I heard they were going to do. That they wanted to add a right-handed bat, so they got a switch hitter, and they also obviously they had a hole at third that they wanted to fill, and then they wanted a bullpen arm. I mean, if you try to do too much, you're going to have to give up a lot of your farm system, and that's probably not a good idea at this point. The team still has a 25% chance or something like that, according to Fangraphs, of making the playoffs. So you love the fact that they're bought into trying to win, but you can't burn up the system for a team that, is less than 1% chance to win the World Series right now. The fan side of me is happy that they're going for it. But the GM side of me would have sold, would have taken advantage of the market, would have looked at the market and said, man, this is a seller's market. let's go out there and sell and get just amazing prospects to add with the guys that we already have. I'd love to pop in another superstar to be like Pete Crow Armstrong, and or maybe two of those guys, because teams are desperate right now to win. And so, and there's a lot more buyers than sellers, right? It's like the housing market was a few years ago, where you could just name your price for a house. It'd go on the market and it would sell before they even listed it, right? So that's look, I've been around for a long time, and I love the thought of having a miracle team and a miracle season, but I've also been a Cubs fan for a long time, and we haven't had a lot of miracle seasons, okay? So when they finally broke through, it was a roster that was stacked, and their chances of winning were the best in baseball, right? And then they lived up to it, as they were rolling through that 2016 season. So we'll see. I mean, I think that as this thing kind of progresses, that the Cubs are going to win some games. I would hate to see a situation where they keep losing to the Reds and then they get beat up by the Braves, and then all of a sudden Jed Hoyer looks terrible.
This is a trade where the negatives are going to come out. We've been talking about it. We wanted to get some of the positives out of the way. Jose Quaz comes in to be a reliever for the Chicago Cubs. He's a sidearm slinger. A career ERA at around 4, was better last year than he is this year. Will walk quite a few batters. They had to give away Nelson Velasquez. You're saying no, not a good trade here.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're getting a reliever that gives up runs but gets a lot of strikeouts. And to me, he's kind of middle of the road, mediocre for a young player that I feel like is better than Seiya Suzuki. I think that if you would have left him in right field, and I know Seiya's got the big contract, and I mean, he's not going anywhere, but I think that Nelson Velasquez would have had a better season. I mean, he's got a lot of pop. He's on pace to hit over 25 home runs between the big leagues and AAA. He plays good defense, probably not as good as Suzuki, but he's definitely serviceable. And I didn't see him as a mid-level prospect. I mean, I figured he would be one of your top guys. But the problem is that the Cubs have so many outfielders right now. It's just a position that they are really kind of backed up in. So it was an easy trade for them to make just because of that. But don't be surprised if, 2 or 3 years from now, that this guy's not hitting 30 home runs and driving in 100 and batting, 260, 265. I mean, he'll strike out some, but he's a really consistent player. And to me, that's a lot to give up, but it's a seller's market. That's a lot. You give up an everyday position player for a middle of the pack reliever. To me, I don't know. I mean, if it was a back end bullpen guy, it'd probably be different, but we'll see what happens.
You had a strong comparison on who Velasquez reminds you of. Can you give it to the people?
Yeah, look, I thought he was kind of like a Nelson Cruz type of guy. I mean, he's got a lot of power and a great arm and very consistent. I could see him being in the game for a long time too. He's going to be one of those players to me. You turn around and you're like, where did this guy come from? He's like, oh, he was a Cub when he started out. But I think Kansas City got a really, really good deal from the Cubs in this one.
Why do you think Velasquez never got the call up to not the call? He was obviously in the big leagues, but why do you think he never fully got his chance to show what he could do in maybe a designated hitting role?
Well, I mean, I just feel like with Cody Bellinger and Seiya Suzuki and Ian Happ, you had all these established guys playing the outfield. I'd say that Velasquez is a right fielder. So, I mean, Are you sold on Suzuki? Fully sold? He's struggling right now. I mean, it's like no, I'm not. I mean, I don't know why, but it's like, it just seems like he's just struggling to hit the off-speed pitch. Like he's just off balance a lot right now. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll turn it around. But to me, the big leagues have kind of figured him out, and he's going to have to dig in and make some adjustments.
All right, we gave you about 12 minutes of the bad news. The good news is, again, Cincinnati and the Cubs tonight from Wrigley Field. 3 more chances for Chicago to take this series. And honestly, Mick, I think at this point you'd take a 2-2 series split, roll into Atlanta, and just try to live to see another day. Because these Reds fans, there was some red in the stands last night in the north side of Chicago, and Cincinnati thinks they're going to come in and bury this team because they've done it all year.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Cubs need a great pitching performance. I mean, you're only as hot as the next day's pitcher, right? And then that's what your ace is there to do, and that's to put an end to a slide like this. All it takes is one game to get things turned around. I don't think the Reds roster is that much better than the Cubs, where the Cubs can't win some games against these guys. And part of it too is when you win 8 in a row, the law of percentages are that some things are going to go against you just because of the nature of the game. But tonight's a big one. I mean, I think you win this one, you get right back on track again.
Justin Steele takes them out tonight. He's going against Ben Lively for the Cincinnati Reds. Steele is now clearly this team's ace, an all-star.
This is the guy you want on the mound. I mean, Justin Steele has been the man of steel, right? From St. George County, Mississippi, right? Or is it just George County, Mississippi? But, yeah, he's been the savior of this pitching staff. His whole problem was always just staying healthy. And now he's at the big league level and healthy. He's as good as there is in the game right now. I mean, he's got that old school big, Uncle Charlie, no relation to you. And
we don't know.
We don't know. Maybe it is your Uncle Charlie. Anyway. No, but he's been fantastic. I hope that he has a killer game tonight.
500 subscribers, Mick.
Let's go.
Over 500. We're going to try to hit 600 today. By the time you like and subscribe, maybe we hit that 1,000, and Mick's hopping on a flight, getting ready to come up for the country club with this Ryan Sandberg autographed baseball. So we're going to see, but we really appreciate everyone helping out the page. And it just goes to show you that we're the 2 guys sitting in the bleachers. We have our vendors coming up and down the aisle with dollar beers in our section. And you guys are clearly enjoying the interesting topics and the color commentary that we provide. And we appreciate it. Keep commenting because your opinions are seen, A, and B, a lot of it, has been brought on the show. Someone told me a week ago, Jeimer Candelario, we should target him. All of a sudden, I started looking into Jeimer, and I was like, yeah, they should target Jeimer Candelario. And boom, we talked it into a fruition right here on the Cubs baseball channel.
Look, what I want to do is when we hit 1,000 subscribers and we do our watch party from Wrigleyville, I also want to swing in to the bleachers and, try one of those beer bats. I love those, and I want to do a cup snake. Is that too much to ask?
Well, it is too much to ask, considering we have viewers at this point from Montana. We have some from Mexico. Someone's actually tuning in from Iraq, so welcome in. We had Belize. We have South Carolina, Buffalo. I mean, it is the entire world right now covered on the Cubs baseball channel. Our audience right now are Cubs fans from all around the world. Find the people in your neck of the woods that are also Cubs fans. Get them on board with this page. And who knows? Maybe you take the flight in from Belize and we all have the Cup Snakes out in the outfield with a giant sign that says Cubs Baseball Channel. We're going to the moon, baby. Why not?
Let's do it.
There's only one way to do it.